For some of you who joined for the first time, community of practice is a community of CTA coaches designed to support learning from coaches to coaches and by coaches. It helps us just to bring together all our coaches and learn from the wisdom of everyone, than just the trainers or mentors or your faculty members. Today we've got Jeanine. Jeanine, hi there.
Hi Aris, hi everyone.
So today our speaker is Jeanine Reyneke. Jeanine, I have never pronounced your last name, for the first time pronouncing it. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Reyneke.
Reyneke.
Reyneke, yes.
Reyneke. From South Africa, right?
Yeah, from everywhere, yes.
Yeah,
South
Australia.
And
Sorry?
Australian, so South African and Australian, living in the Netherlands.
Yeah, a global citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 continents, right?
That's right, yes. Yeah.
That's how world has emerged.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But not unusual in this group, I found.
Sorry?
So it's not unusual in this group, I have found.
Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you very okay. And guys, can you nod your head? We'll just say, yeah. I think everybody can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jeanine is going to present to us on feedback skills today. Jeanine, how long would you take?
How long do I have?
You have forever.
Look, I know our session is 45 minutes and or an hour, and you usually leave the last 15 minutes for feedback and question. But I'm actually, because this is a feedback session, right at the end, we are actually going to give feedback. There will be an opportunity to create powerful feedback sentences. So I don't know, I think I will check with you. I'll let it up to you just to kind of look towards the end, whether you want to stop the group to ask other questions or whether it is kind of interactive enough.
Sure. Probably we can check in 15 minutes after you start presentation with the group.
Yeah.
How they want to continue.
Okay.
Yeah. So over to you, Jeanine.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Harris. Everyone else, welcome today. I'm very excited to have this session with you guys. It's a topic very close to my heart, and spent a lot of time delivering this to people. And then, as I became part of this community, I realized actually we spend a lot of time giving each other feedback, but with the intention to grow. And I thought, well, maybe we need or something I can share with you is good structure that we can put around our feedback to make sure that we are more comfortable giving feedback, and at the same time that we give it in a way that the other people actually learn from it. So I'm going to share that with you today. Okay, can I share my screen? Share. Okay, can everyone see this? It's good? Okay, so feedback and delivering effective feedback. Now the session is going to be quite interactive. There might even be prizes for the first, the 5th and the 10th person giving their inputs. I think the first couple of times, let's just use chat for your inputs. I really want us all to kind of stay interactive in this session and to have the opportunity to sort of do something instead of just listening as well to me. Okay, so learning how to use feedback to reinforce a behavior or to get results and facilitate learning. So this is the frame for my presentation today. It's not just feedback, but how do we use it to get results and to facilitate learning? So for us here in this group, but also if we're leaders, facilitate the learning of our people. also as coaches, facilitate the learning. So what we're going to go through is understanding the ABCs, using positive reinforcement to increase the right behaviors, and reduce the behaviors that are not helpful. I will talk about plus delta, which basically means positive reinforcement, but also pointing out the things that's perhaps not helpful to someone. And we will spend some time right at the end to formulate strong feedback statements. Okay. So why do people behave the way they do? We have this, I'm sharing with you a concept called the ABCs. So we know that what we can see with people is their behavior, and that contributes to their performance. And as coaches, we see this too. We see their behavior and we can see their performance. Now, for the performance to go up, the behavior has to change. And so there's two things that influences behavior in this concept. One is the activators and one is the consequences. Well, I'm going to go through them step by step. So behavior, if you guys could just all type in as much as you can, what do you think is a behavior and what do you think is a performance? Anything. Lots of examples. I will read through them so I see them. Okay, behavior, how you act. Attitude, what else? Lack of delegation, your emotions. How you show up, based on beliefs and values. What you deliver, response to situations, that one's a good one. It's how we act, that's a good one. How we react. It's quantitative, yeah, that's performance and behavior. How you feel, definitely this influences it. And it's internal, external action, that's a good one, Samir. Harris, the how of the performance, that's also a good one. Nina's, what you project. Your reaction based on internal stimulations, culminated. Okay, we've got some really, really good ones here. So actions and reactions, I think is what came out most from you guys. Qualitative, quantitative, okay. Influencing from you. Okay, I'm going to stop there with this specific one. So as you can see here, what we see and observe what people do. That is really the behavior, it's what we see. So Harris has taught us in this course about, the iceberg. And that part that we see above the iceberg, that really is the behaviors. And that is also the performance, influences the performance. So at work, we say it's their performance at work. Let me just make sure I'm here on this slide. The performance in their work, the things that they say, the things that they do. And that really is our behaviors. Okay. Going to go to the next step, activator. Now, an activator can also be described as an input. So remember, we are trying to think, how do you influence behavior? So we say there's two things, an activator and a consequence. Now, an activator is also an input. I'm going to give you an example of an input. My mom says, when I was little, she says, don't run across the street when the cars are there. And that's an input. And she really hopes that is influencing my behavior. So now I'm going to ask you guys, give me some examples when you type in there. What could be activators? So what is an input? So forget about the actions here now, what people say, what they do. What are the kind of inputs that will influence their behavior? Share with me on chat. What have we got? Triggers, yeah, that's a good one. Comments, good one, Natasha. Insecurity. Culture, environment, exactly. Previous experience, that's a really good one. Stimulus. Stimulus, of course. Learning, your senses. Activators are also telling mode, yeah. Beliefs, very true. Stuff that sits under. Hidden thoughts. Oh dear. Wonder what those could be, Jyoti. Okay, past experiences. Yep, sounds and smells. Very good one. So these are all circumstances. This one's good. Circumstances surrounding influences. Okay, I think we could stop here and I'll share with you what I've got here on the slide. So what I've got is it's something that prompts our behavior. So you guys given me really, really good examples of this. This thing causes a behavior to happen a limited number of times. That's the thing, a limited number of times. And a good example of this is rules and regulations, instruction manuals. Now, to bring it back to the CTA group, we all sat with Harris or Frana, for instance, and we sat through a course. And we got a very thick manual, and we got a whole long list of our ethics and the way that we should behave, and things like that as coaches, guidelines. Those are rules and regulations. Those are things that are inputs. It's telling us how we should behave. And if we behave in this way, we will be good coaches. It's very easy, isn't it? It's very easy. Very, very easy. We are told what to do. And then if we follow that, we'll get the outcome. I wonder how well this works in reality. Anyway, I'll go to the next one, consequences. Now, consequence can also influence behaviors. A consequence can influence behavior. So my mum used to tell me not to cross the street when there are cars coming. So you can imagine as a little child, if you run across the street and the car runs over you, that's a very dire consequence. That's a very, that's a very direct consequence. So then it's too late. So this is a good example of where rules are really important and boundaries. But give me some examples of what sort of other consequences could influence someone's behavior. I once touched the stove plate, my hand, and I had those rings burnt onto my hands as a 5-year-old. And I can tell you, I will never touch a hot stove plate again. So consequence. Rewards, that's a good one. Actions, losing your job, losing security. Punishment, that's a good. Ihab, what's going on there? Fear. Experience, yeah. Query if you are late for work. That's right. So someone is addressing your issue. Cause and effect of causal relation. Yep. Beliefs. Yep. Punishment. I think I already had. A little bit for the others. Perception of others. Understanding the consequence. Okay. What else we got? Reward. Don't know what just happened there. I think I typed on the screen. Sorry, guys. Okay. I think that those ones are good. I will share with you what I've got here. So your consequence, just as you guys have pointed out here, is the result of behavior. It's every behavior has an immediate consequence. We know that. Everything we do has some sort of impact somewhere. Most behaviors have a future consequence. You do this now, it will only happen down the track. For instance, we did our course with CTA, with Harris, but we will only become, this work will pay off when we become accredited coaches, which is a couple of months or maybe a year down the track. So you see, consequence comes later. And consequences can also be positive or negative. So Iab pointed out the punishment. Mahmoud here pointed out reward. So you can see those are really, really good things that we can do. I hope this is already triggering for you guys. How you can use consequences to influence behavior as a boss or to facilitate someone's learning. Okay. What do you guys think influence behavior the most? Activators or consequences? I'd like to hear. Get some votes. Activators or consequences?
I think activators are impacting behaviors the most.
Okay. You think activators?
I think activators.
I think consequences.
Consequences, activators. Let me see. What have I got here? It looks to me, if I look at chat and from what I heard you guys say, consequences is winning. Now there's a little bit of research.
Somewhere, whatever we are doing, we are getting motivated by future.
By the future, that's a good one. Okay, so there's a bit of research around this. I don't have the the backup of that with me right now, but I can find if you guys are ever interested. Activators influence 20% of performance. Consequences, 80% of performance. Now, you know I'm going to ask you later on what kind of leader you want to be and what you actually want to spend your time on. Because you could spend all your time on activators, but it might not get you the results. On the other hand, you might get a bigger chance of influencing your team's behavior or facilitating someone's learning through consequences. Okay. Here's another little question for you guys. What type of consequence is this? What's the words that come up? Punishment, that's a good one, Kamesh. Bad, yeah. Safety, this is perfect for safety. It's a very good point you make here. It's a bad one, Shane, yeah. Stick, the old stick and carrot. Yeah. Ticket, law, yeah. Respect, yeah, that would be a threat. Yeah, this one's a threat. Restrictions. Okay, negative consequences. Mahmoud, you are hitting the nail on the head there. So this is an example of a negative consequence. You have positive and negative consequences. This one is positive, is negative. It's a punishment. What do you think will happen to the behavior if we punish someone? What do you guys think? Change, yeah. So that's a good one. Follow the rules more, nice one, Jyoti. It won't be repeated. Resentment, yeah. They will become better, we hope so. Sometimes it changes resentment. It might reinforce the behavior. Hopefully the behavior is to drive slower. Offensive attitude. Okay, so not so much about the attitudes, more about the behaviors, eh? That's what I want to hear. Lesson learned, that's a good one. Shaheen. Yeah, that fear, you're right, Ludmila. The fear will then also drive this behavior to stop. Okay, so I think what I get from you guys is it will change the behavior. Now I want to ask you another question. Does it work all the time to have a speed limit? No, 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 it doesn't. No, not really. Okay, we're all on the same page here. When does it not work? When does it not work? When it does not hurt, yeah. Such a yeah, a fine definitely does hurt. But when does a speed limit not work? Okay, that's a really good one. The consequence is not big enough. That's a good one, Saad. Consequence is not big enough. Why would I bother with that? Consequence is not clear. Priority. It's not implemented fairly. That's another one. When the fear is low, there are no consequences. Okay. People are not convinced. So this is all a little bit to do with it. It's not done fairly. It's not done consistently. And people don't really care about the consequences. An accident doesn't happen, exactly. So it's meaningless. So I'll give you a tip on this one. When consequences don't work is when it's not consistently there. So if that is there every day and you get caught every single day at exactly the same place, you'll probably drive slower. But if that's there only one day and you never see it again, I mean, I've actually personally paid quite a few speeding fines, so this one's close to my heart. If the punishment's not there, I stop. I just drive wherever I want to drive, safely, of course, but a little bit faster. So the problem that we have with negative consequences is they only work while the punisher is there. So you know when your mum used to shout at you because you did something naughty, but when she's not looking, you do the naughty thing again. Or I shouldn't say you, your little naughty brother. Of course, we were all very good kids. But our naughty brothers, when your mum's not there, they get up to it, the naughty stuff again. So negative consequences only work if you know, while the punisher is there, and when it's consistent. And this is an example. You guys have already answered this one as an example of an immediate speed, because you get caught immediately. You know it's there. Okay. What kind of consequence is this? So Facebook likes, Instagram followers, bags full of money. It's raining on you. Like, just imagine it. It is raining money. Reward, positive. Positive, excited, yeah. Happy, yeah. It's a positive reward. Familiar, yeah. Inflated, like a Jyoti. External validation, yes. Yeah, so it's validation. What else have we got? So I think all of us are clear on this. It's positive. Does it work all the time? Positive consequences. No. So we're all on the same page. It doesn't always work. When does it not work? Yeah, when you have deeper issues. What else? Exactly, this is a good one. So this is a really, really good one. It doesn't work when you do not know what leads to the result. So this is the point with all consequences, positive, negative. They don't work if you are not certain that it's going to happen in the end. So they have to be certain. Certain, you do something and you're definitely going to get the reward. You do something and you're definitely going to get the fine. Then that's a way to influence behavior. Guys, can you all mute a little bit? We just got some background noise there. Veronica, this is a good one. When it's not important to you. We'll come back to this a little bit later around leadership stuff. If you want to influence your team members' behavior and your team members' performance, if you give them a reward that's not important to them, it's not going to work. When you give someone a punishment that they don't care about, it's not going to work. I think we've already covered that. There's a really, exactly, doesn't mean much to you. Yeah, immediate future, we talked about words. Why would we use consequences? So here, I think you guys, what I've seen already, actually everyone is very tuned up on this. So we would use consequences to increase certain behaviors of performance or decrease certain behaviors of performance. That's the two reasons you use consequences to influence behavior. Remember, there's always a place for activators. Rules have a place. They should be there. There's rules to follow for your safety, to do your work to a certain level. But to influence people's behaviors and their performance really effectively is where you look at this. Increase certain behaviors, decrease certain behaviors. Okay. Let's get this spreadsheet. Okay. So most leaders, it's also come out of a study, spend 80% of their time. I hope I made a mistake in this in my presentation. So most leaders spend 80% of their time on activators and inputs. Effective leaders spend 80% of their time on consequences. So effective leaders spend 8% of their time on consequences. So my question to all of you is, what kind of leader do you want to be? So for the purpose of this presentation, feedback is also a consequence. Did you guys know that? Feedback is also a consequence. Feedback is free consequence, by the way. So as a leader with a small budget, feedback is free consequence that you have in your back pocket to influence the behavior and performance of your team. Okay, I'm just going to cover a little bit of the theory. I think through your questions, we've actually got all the answers on quite a few things already. Okay, so people repeat behaviors that are positively reinforced or that facilitates their learning. It confirms to a person and to the work group what success looked like. So the problem that a lot of us have, I suppose, is in our jobs, you know, and you have a boss that doesn't actually give you feedback. You have no idea what's right or wrong. You have no idea how to kill it at this job because no one tells you, oh, you're doing a good job now, or this is what we actually want to achieve. And so it's really hard to sort of help the performance of the team or help the performance of the company if you don't actually know that you're on the right way. And positive reinforcement is a good way of doing that, for positive feedback. In companies where positive feedback gets used a lot, there's a lot of discretionary effort. And discretionary effort is just a word for people who work overtime for free. I think we've all been in jobs, I know quite a lot of you already just through our sessions, is that a lot of us work very long hours and we do not even complain about it because we love what we do. We get so much energy from performing that and you know, that's the discretionary effort. And I bet you every time you ask any of those people, it's when they have really good feedback from their bosses or from their companies or from their team members. Or if they're the bosses themselves, the feedback they get is the business they get. So that's an example of the discretionary effort. And it helps create a positive relationship and work environment. That's another you know, benefit of positive feedback. I think I was just talking to you before about you know, loving your work, loving the team you work in. And if this is part of the culture, that usually is the outcome. Why use negative feedback? You guys gave very good understanding of this. So it reinforces that the behavior is not desirable. So there's no way that people will, you know, sometimes, or not always, but what I'm trying to say is if you are in a role and there's something, for instance, I'm from South Africa and I point, with pointers, point, tap my finger and, you know, I do the eyes. And so I had a lovely, lovely Indian guy that I worked with. And he one day said to me, because feedback in our team was very open, and which means I had to be open to the feedback as their manager as well. And we learned from each other. And he one day said to me, Jeanine, do you know, in my culture, the pointing is actually quite rude. And I know you now, so it doesn't bother me so much, but it is quite, takes me aback every time you do that. So I had to learn, and he helped me to maybe find some better hand movements if I really must point, maybe point in a slightly softer way and stuff like that. But that's an example that if someone didn't have negative feedback for me that I can learn from, I would never have known that, and I would never have had the opportunity to improve. So in safety, you guys have mentioned the safety, for instance, a good guy. it's imperative to stop some certain undesired behavior. For those of you who work in construction areas and stuff like that, if you behave in an unsafe way that make other people unsafe, you are out of the company. Leave the site immediately. So it is very powerful for certain things. It confirms to the person, the groups in a team, what sort of behaviors are acceptable or not. And the biggest thing about negative feedback, it reduces or removes the behavior. So that is what we need to remember. One is to improve, to increase the behavior. The other one is to remove or stop a behavior. Couple of tips for negative feedback. Always, 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 I cannot say this enough, correct behavior in private, especially if you're a manager. Correct behavior in private. If you do that in front of a group, you will lose, especially if it's not the culture of the group, you will lose the person's, how can you say, trust that you've got their back while they are still growing. Again, it comes back to behavior. Understand the behavior you're trying to stop. Negative feedback is not criticism. Negative feedback is about the behavior you want to stop. Okay? As a leader, this is very important. Also in the CTA community. Make sure your initial instructions were understood and speak about the goal and expectation of recent behavior. So especially as a coach now, we know what are certain things people want to achieve, and we can see if those behaviors are supporting that. Cool. What about no feedback at all? I've given one thing there. The person may assume their behaviors are acceptable. What happens to good behavior, especially in a work environment, that goes unnoticed? Let me see, what have you guys got? No growth. They lose motivation. What about yourselves? Have you ever been in a situation where you have gotten no feedback, but you have done your job really well? Demotivated. What else have we got? Discouragement to do it again. Exactly, Jyoti. You feel it's insecure? Yeah, that's a very, very true one. You may vanish. You may go to another company. You're not developing. I kept doing it till I got rewarded. I fought for it. Exactly. So you had to keep going. You had to keep going. Makes it hard, doesn't it? For the wrong product. Lose interest. That's a good one. Resentment. Resentment. You don't feel appreciated. You feel unappreciated. You will resign. Yes. Yeah. So we have all seen this. We've seen this and we have felt this in some way. What happens to good behavior and good performance if you say nothing? So I want you guys to think about that as well in the back of your mind. In some cultures, it's not that common to give feedback. Negative, makes them uncomfortable, but also positive feels like, well, you know, you get paid to do that job. So I'm not going to give you feedback, good positive feedback on that. So now you guys have just shared with me, if you're a really good performer and your boss is like, well, I'm going to pay you for that job, kind of expect you to just do that every day. But what if you've struggled to perform that? What if that's the first time you did that? What if it was a little bit harder? A pat on the back cost them nothing. So I just want to leave that with you guys in terms of, as a leader, feedback is free, especially your good performers. Don't let it go unnoticed. May help someone double their efforts. There you go. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one. Okay, this page is about structure of a powerful feedback statement. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. I want to say this. A compliment is not feedback. It's an opinion. And you guys have just shared with me before, if something's not consistent, it doesn't work. Now, a compliment, as I said, it's an opinion. So I might like red, and I would say, that's a beautiful, lovely red dress. Someone else goes, it's not blue. So you can see where I'm coming from when I say a compliment. And a compliment person's not learning from either. That's a great presentation. What are you learning from that? That's a great. It's good for rapport. And as coaches, rapport is so important for us, as you guys know, to build that trust. But when it comes to growth, we look at behavior. We look at, and for behavior, that's feedback. It's not a compliment or an empty statement. Oh, that's great. What's great for you might not be great for the person who did that. Or what's stupid for you might not be stupid to the person who did that. They learn nothing from it. And I also want you guys to have a mindset of feedback's not criticism. Feedback's not criticism. Negative feedback's also not criticism. We're going to go back to, remember, the basis of this whole session we do today is behaviors. The ABCs, the behaviors, and influencing the behavior. So it's not the criticism. We need to be very specific about the behavior of our team members we want to improve. Or in CTA, what's the behavior we want someone to learn from? Or as coaches for our clients, what's the behavior that we want to facilitate their learning on? So I want you guys to keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, so here is the structure if we're talking using feedback to influence behavior. Okay. When a person, behavior, did, ask, or said, so very specific. And you'll hear Harris every time we have mentoring sessions, every time we do feedback for coaches, he says, be very specific, write down what happened, write down what was said. This is what he means. And the outcome was. So if you really want to teach someone, I suppose, because in this case, feedback is to teach, to let someone's learning, facilitate their learning, and to influence the behavior. So it comes back to behavior. So I'll give you an example. I touched the plate. So Jeanine, when you touched the hot plate, the outcome was that you burned your hand. So you can see what I mean there. So as a child then, of course, I would have learned from burning my hand, but it's not just the behavior, it also shows me what I have done and what the impact was. And that will change the behavior. Okay. So again, when you did, said, or asked something, the outcome was this. So for instance, for team members who are late, I know we've all had team members who don't come on time. So an example of how I would structure that sentence in a way that that person learn, but also in a way that they don't feel attacked. So it goes about the behavior. John, yesterday when you were late, the outcome was that we didn't have enough people to answer the phones and we lost 3 customers. Now I know for John, what's important is that, is our high customer score. So that impact, he will now understand his behavior. It's not just that I'm sitting there and I'm nitty-gritty going, you need to be this or this time. We had an impact on our customers. So something that's meaningful to us. Hope this makes sense. Okay. So 2 ways to structure the feedback. When I do this at work, in a work situation as a leader, especially if I have a culture in my team of us doing feedback for each other, including me, they give me feedback too. This is the boundaries we put around it. To always structure the feedback in that way. And then when you do two types of feedback, a plus and a delta. And I always let the person who was performing something, so in this case, I'm now presenting. So if I had team members here, they would have first said, Jeanine, plus for you. What should you do more of in the future? And what can you add in the future? Harris always calls this so beautifully, what do you appreciate? So think of that. But again, behavior. This is not, oh, that was a great presentation. Lovely compliment. And also, compliments are lovely, thank you. If you are trying to assist my growth, I'm learning nothing from that. So what should I do more of in the future? Well, I think so far I am using the time well. So I would like to do more of that in the future. The prep I've done. What can I add in the future? Well, if I could do it face to face, it would be so much more interactive. Delta. What should I do less of in the future? I think I talk a little bit fast at the moment. And the outcome is that perhaps not everyone can follow, or there might be some questions left on the table. So I would like to do that differently next time. So you can see here, the delta is what did I do and what I think is the outcome. And when I start, it also means I'm more open to feedback because I don't feel as attacked by everyone else who's now kind of pointing out my faults. So that's something to use if you are a manager. Tips for giving feedback. You guys have touched on these things before when we went through consequences. Specific behavior. And remember, it's linked to the behavior that you want to see a learning or a change in. Always discuss pluses before deltas. We always jump to negative stuff first, but seriously, guys, there are probably 20 things we do well and one thing we do wrong. So reinforce for ourselves, but also our team members, these are the things that you should keep doing. These are the things you should do more of. Otherwise, what they hear is, hey, I didn't do 20 things well, I did 20 things wrong. So let's start with what are the good things that you should do more of, and what's the behaviors that you could perhaps change or do less of. Remember, a powerful feedback statement is who did what and what was the outcome. Be factual, what behavior, what outcome. Be consistent. If you don't give feedback every time someone does something well, they'll be like, oh, I'm not really getting this feedback every time. I'm not getting in trouble every time. You know, if there's a safety issue and you need to make sure that people get the warning that they need to get, so negative feedback, and they're not, then that's not consistent and it won't work. Be sincere, mean it. Never give people feedback that you don't mean. That behavior really did have to happen and there had to be an outcome. Be timely, don't wait a year down the track. If that happened recently, talk about it so people's learning is fresh. And be relevant. If it's not relevant to their learning and you just want to nitpick with negative feedback or just want to give compliments, make sure it's relevant. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay. My plan is now to do a very, very short coaching. And then to open up the floor to all of you to give me feedback, but in this format. Are you guys open to that? We've got 15 minutes left. Harris, are you happy with it? Group, are you guys happy with it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
So how long of a coaching session?
5 minutes.
Okay.
It's just it's literally just a setup piece.
Okay.
Okay. And I want you guys to know, remember, I'm leaving this up here. When we give feedback, specific. And what was the outcome? Specific about my behavior and specific what was the outcome. I have someone lined up. Nina, are you on the call?
Yeah, ready.
Thank you. So I coached Nina a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, as part of our practice. And I was asking her if she would mind for us to do a follow-on session today. Okay. Are you guys all on silent? Have your pens ready? Okay.
Jeanine, is that okay if we stop presentation for 5 minutes while we're doing coaching session and then we bring it back?
Completely fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Nina.
Hi, Jeanine.
How are you?
Good, good, thanks.
That's really good to hear. You look so relaxed.
Yes, when I'm just about to move and I don't know when yet, yeah, I feel still relaxed.
Yeah, you look ready.
Yes.
Look, I just wanted to sort of at the start of our coaching conversation, I want to have a bit of a reflection on our last session. Last time we spoke about your new business, and we were working on your keywords that you wanted to, what reflects your business and the kind of clients you want. And I was wondering, what was your reflections and highlights in the last week since we spoke?
Yeah, so so that session was very helpful to help me define my target market for the kind of clients I want to attract. So I actually used those keywords on my front page, my homepage on my website. So that was very clear. So how I phrased it and formulated it was for individuals who are inspired to be a better version of their personal and professional selves.
Wow, that's a really powerful statement.
So yeah, I got very excited about it, and yeah, so thank you for kind of pulling it out of me.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad that was a powerful session. And Nina, did you have any challenges in the last week since our last?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I guess I you know, now I've defined who I want to work with. I need to now figure out how I'm gonna find them.
Yeah.
Digitally, especially now,
Okay.
because my definition is still quite broad.
Okay, okay. It sounds to me as well, I'm just looking at your actions here that you had, and it sounds to me like you also did all of your actions that we set for you at the last session. So that's really good.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate you on pushing through with those as well. So what would you like to use today's session on?
Maybe discuss some ways, what are the best ways for me to attract...
Sorry, could you just stop? My phone's just, Yes, hi Mom. Sorry, I'm just busy with the facilitation. Can I call Mom back? Yeah, okay. Goodbye. Sorry, Nina, if you could, what were you saying?
How's your mom?
Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry about that. Yes, she's well. Yeah, but anyway, you were saying?
What was I saying? I'm not sure what we were talking about.
It was about your website, and this week that you want for your clients, I think. Clients.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so now I've defined more clearly my my target market, and yeah, how do I attract them? How do I find them? Yeah. What are the types of jobs and so on I should be looking for in my clients?
Okay, so is that the goal you want for this session?
Yeah, I guess so.
I just feel like that's not really a strong goal. I feel like, Nina, you could, I think you could have a stronger goal for this session.
Like?
I just think that part of the consulting piece that you talked about is a lot more meaty. And would maybe be a better goal for you for the session. You know, it just might be a better business opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's probably maybe more money into it, but I also do want to develop the coaching because it's new and so on. So yeah, I do want to work on that. Okay.
In the end, it's your session. If you feel that's the better goal, then let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stop here. Sorry about that. we can have a proper session later. I hope I've given everyone a little bit of material to work with. And I would like if you guys could all come back online, and so I can see your faces. And I would like
from the behaviors.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. From the behavior section, I could see that was a disrespectful session.
So that to me is an opinion. Sorry, I'm going to be quite, just give me a second. Now I've just lost you guys here on Zoom. Where is Zoom? My computer. Sorry. Zoom, share screen. Okay, so Jeanine, sorry to give you no, I'm giving you feedback. That's an opinion, so that I was disrespectful. Maybe Nina doesn't think it's disrespectful, maybe I don't think it's disrespectful. So what was my behavior? What's the behavior you saw?
Okay, from behavior, it's to me that.
What did I do?
Pardon me?
What did I do?
You were not listening.
I was not listening. Okay, so that's the behavior. So Jeanine, when you were not listening, what was the outcome?
You lost the client.
I lost the trust of the client.
You lost focus.
Now that, Jeanine, is something I can learn from. That's a good feedback statement. I know I wasn't listening, and I know there was an impact. If you tell me I was disrespectful, I might become defensive, not listening to you. The feedback's not going anywhere. You want me to learn? I wasn't listening, lost the client. Good feedback, give me one. Behavior, what did I do? What was the outcome?
Jeanine, what I really appreciated about you was when you said you look so relaxed, it brought smile on client's face.
Thank you, Aris. So I learned something from that, because I now know noticing and noticing her posture and things like that, and giving that smile means we're starting the session in a better way. Thanks for that, Aris. Anyone else? Veronica. So I'm going to pick on the people like I know.
Your introduction was very good and created a good atmosphere.
Okay.
And
I'm going to stop you there. So that's an opinion, that it was good. Someone else might think it's not good. What was the specific behavior? My introduction?
Creating the relationship to the client.
Thank you.
Was good.
What was the outcome?
The outcome was that the client felt trust and could speak to you. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very strong feedback statement you make there, because you give me something to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
The way I introduce will help me with the trust with the client, and will help me with the openness of the client. So thank you for that. Okay, who else have we got?
I would like to say something.
Yes.
I think today I learned a word, psychological safe space. And I believe you initiated with the friendly behavior, and then you questioned her positively, then you tried to take the feedback, and that gave her the trust. And somewhere that trust helped you to cover up when you received the call all of a sudden, interrupting her without, in fact, telling her that I'm going to interrupt you. So that was like all of a sudden break to whatever she was thinking.
Then I stop.
And at the same time, yeah, sure. Yeah.
So what I hear you say is my behavior was, I picked up the phone and I said that I was going to disrupt her. And so what was the outcome of that?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
So I want you to say your feedback statement to me, mentioning my specific behavior and what was the outcome. So I heard you say my behavior was I picked up the phone call and I disrupted her. And what was the outcome of that behavior?
Outcome was that she lost the track.
I lost the trust.
No. She lost the track of whatever she was saying. And now when you tried to get back, definitely she tried herself as well, because the trust was not broken, but somewhere the link and the flow, I'll say the tempo through which she was going, somewhere she lost that, because she was explaining something else and then she went back to the previous topic. So
perfect.
Somewhere you lost on that part. I won't say it was a behavioral loss. It was more towards that the communication loss between you two.
Okay, thank you. That was really good. Just remember, with feedback statements, the shorter they are, especially now, you are giving me negative feedback, huh? So I might become defensive, but you want me to learn. So keep them short and sharp. Then I will hear you. Then I will hear you really well. So I disrupted her rudely, and she lost track. Now, as a coach, what I learned from you, so thank you for sharing that with me. But as a coach, what I learned from you is our client's conversation is so important. And if she loses track, we lose the conversation. So I have learned this from you. That was a good statement. Thank you. Anyone else? Give it to me. Come on, I was pretty rude there.
I'd like to share something. Hi, Jeanine.
Hello.
Hi. I thought it was really interesting how you suggest that another topic would be more important to be discussed in the meeting.
Okay, so my behavior was I suggested a different topic.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that I think was very thoughtful from you and came from a place of passionate that you want to deliver something more profound. But in another hand, I felt that she felt unheard, and also that what she wanted to stress, to discuss with you today was not that important.
You are hitting the nail on the head. Now, if you could rephrase that feedback to me in a strong feedback statement, what was my action that you want me to change, and what is the outcome?
Would be interesting if you discuss the topic from the client.
Yeah, so I did that.
And if you do that, when you're doing that, she will feel more heard and important, like her opinion matters.
Thank you. That is very valuable feedback for me. That's a very strong way that you've put it there. I don't feel it's an opinion. I don't feel attacked. You have given me exactly what I did, so I know that behavior happened. But also what you've given me is the impact on my client. And because I want to be a good coach, that's important to me. So you've given me something that I want to learn as well. So thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else? I think we are on the hour, Harris.
Yes, Jeanine. Hello, Jeanine.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, with respect to, yeah, thank you so much for this demo.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, with the, when you interrupted Nina, you interrupted Nina, and she got lost of what she was talking about.
Yeah.
So I think in the future, I think you should keep your eye on your mobile or keep it silent or something before the session.
Perfect. That is perfect statement. The way you've put that, I have very clearly understand what my action was, and I can't disagree with you because it happened. The other thing is, as I said, I want to be a good client, coach. So the feedback you just gave me is actually relevant to my client. So that is something I can learn from. Great feedback statement. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Harriet, I'm mindful that we're on the top of the hour. So I thank everyone for the courage to give me negative feedback, because that is hard. That is really, really hard. And so by keeping it factual and to the point, I learned something, and I'm open to the learning. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanine. I can't just appreciate enough for the presentation. So thank you for such an amazing learning for all of us. I have a couple of thoughts here, and if you allow me, Jeanine, to share. So a setup for me is very important when we look at coaching, when we look at a feedback. Do we have a setup of me and you, or do we have a setup of me, you, and we? So is there a group dynamic there, or is there just individuals? So if it's one-to-one, it can have a different dynamics. If it's one-to-many, it has different dynamics. And I say word creates world for people, but if it's in group, it can create a universe and a different globe. So be mindful, because you're not just impacting the feedback to an individual, but you're impacting the group dynamics too. People start to look at things from a different perspective, what you've just shared about the person. And be mindful, are you serving the one who you're giving feedback to, or are you serving yourself in that feedback? A lot of time we serve ourselves when we give feedback instead of serving the learning of the person who we're sharing the feedback with. And how do we serve ourselves? That I would have done this. Come on, you would have done that. It's okay, we don't want that. Yeah, I thought that was something important to do. No, that's not what, we're not looking at thinkings, your ideas, your perspectives, your perceptions. What we're looking at is, what did you experience and what's your reflection for the learning of our coach, for the learning of the person who was performing in that setup. You know, I mean, ultimately what we need to look at here is when we speak to share feedback, am I sharing feedback? And that's the first context we must build. Am I sharing feedback to serve the person who performed to perform better? Or am I serving some other intentions of, and how we should observe feedback is not from the space of knowledge, but from the space of experiencing it, from the context of the person who is performing there. And a lot of times we operate from the space of knowledge and we share our knowledge therefore. But are we genuinely curious to listen and observe and operate from that space and then share what we experienced? And that's a little slight difference, but a huge difference that it creates for people. I was in a conversation with one of the group here, and then somebody said feedback, and so the feedback was built on somebody else's feedback. And that's something so dangerous in a group to happen. So if let's say Jeanine shares feedback of Nina's performance, and then I show up and say, Jeanine, you know what you said, that's not the way we should look at feedback in groups, in teams, in when we are in one-to-many setups, because we're not talking about Jeanine. Jeanine is not supposed to be given feedback or shared feedback or offered feedback. It's Nina's feedback, and I shouldn't be agreeing or disagreeing with Jeanine, because Jeanine is not the person that is in scope of that feedback. Yeah, so be careful who you sharing feedback for, and what's the setup, what's the agenda. And coaching is such a beautiful skill to apply in feedback. If you can be consistent, concise, precise in your feedback, you can really create wonders. Instead of sharing long descriptive stories of what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, how you want to feel, how you want to hear, that's not what feedback about. You're not here to share a story. It's not a practice of storytelling. It's a practice of contributing to one's learning and growth. to help them develop further. Yeah. So these are a couple of things that I thought I would share. And any thought from anyone in the room here, and before we get on to the closure of the call. All right, guys, I think we're at the top of the hour, and my son behind is a Superman today. You can see him in Superman's dress, so he wouldn't leave any space to roam around the house. So thank you, everyone. If there's any
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I've just learned that, you know, opinions is we need to watch on our opinions, because many times we think it is a feedback, but it's actually an opinion.
Right. That's a very powerful learning, and I must congratulate you on taking that away.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeanine. Thanks, Harris. Have a lovely evening, guys.
Next week, so one information for all of you. Next COP call is with Camellia and her partner about how to set up business for coaches in UAE. If you guys are not from UAE, that may not be of so much of interest to you. Just to tell you on a different note. And it is specific to UAE, right, Camellia? If you may just share.
Yes, but it's very much for